The chamber of the Hegemony's High Council was a testament to ancient power and cosmic reach, its vast dome arcing into an artificial nebula of shifting starlight, each scintillant point representing a conquered world or a sworn vassal. Silicate light trees, cultivated over millennia, pulsed with an internal luminescence, casting long, ethereal shadows across the polished chromite floor where the delegations of the core species gathered. At the center, upon a raised dais of obsidian, sat the Grand V.A. Chorn, first speaker of the Hegemony, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the anxious tremor that permeated the air, a vibration far more profound than the subtle hum of the chamber's environmental controls. Before the V.A. Chorn, the holographic projection of a distant, swirling blue-green world pulsed with a disquieting intensity, a world marked on the star charts as Sol 3, homeworld of the species self-identifying as humanity. Councillor Cathar, representative of the militaristic Catarl species, scraped a heavy claw against the armrest of his console, the sound a sharp, unwelcome intrusion into the hushed contemplation that had settled over the chamber. "First speaker," he rumbled, his voice a gravelly bass that reverberated through the chamber's sonic dampeners. "The reports remain inconclusive. Their expansion rates, their technological progression, it defies established metrics. We have offered them the standard probationary vessel, a gesture of inclusion, and they have accepted with a perplexing lack of inquiry. This alone is concerning. They are a species barely emerged from their own stellar nursery, yet they demonstrate a capacity for adaptation that borders on the unnatural." His multi-jointed head, adorned with ridged chitin, swiveled to encompass the assembly, his gaze sharp and accusatory. The Catarl had long championed a policy of cautious isolation, viewing emergent species with a deep-seated skepticism, bordering on xenophobia. From across the chamber, the sleek, iridescent form of Ambassador Lyra of the Zalosian Enclave shimmered, her bioluminescent tendrils flickering in agitation. "Councillor Cathar, your alarm is as ever disproportionate. They are a new entry into the galactic stage. Their systems are rudimentary, their energy signatures raw. The vessel we designated for their probationary integration, the Starseer's Whisper, is a venerable craft, certainly, but hardly a vanguard warship. It is the weakest vessel currently in Hegemony service, relegated to deep-roaming patrol duties within quiescent sectors, designed to carry minimal crew and exhibit only basic FTL capabilities. It is a symbol, a gesture, not a tactical deployment. We have observed their initial scans of the Whisper. They exhibit no outward signs of disappointment or even surprise at its antiquated specifications. This suggests a certain naivete, perhaps a lack of comparative data regarding current galactic standards." Her voice, a melodic cascade of tones, sought to soothe, but a subtle undercurrent of unease rippled through her words, a discordance that belied her placid demeanor. The Zalosians prided themselves on their diplomatic acumen, their ability to navigate the complex socio-political currents of the Hegemony, and the unpredictable nature of humanity was proving a persistent challenge to their carefully cultivated methodologies. The Grand V.A. Chorn, its ocular clusters slowly rotating, focused its myriad eyes on the pulsating projection of Sol 3. "Naivete, Ambassador Lyra, or a deeper understanding we have yet to grasp. Their initial diplomatic overtures were unusual, direct, lacking the customary layers of supplicatory deference expected from a newly contacted species. They inquired not about the advantages of Hegemony membership, but about the fundamental laws of interspecies engagement, the protocols of shared resource management, the ethical parameters of first contact. They did not seek to impress, but to understand. And when presented with the Starseer's Whisper, a vessel specifically chosen for its limitations, they accepted it with a quiet determination, sending a minimal crew complement to begin its integration into their own nascent infrastructure. This absence of protest, this stoic acceptance of a clear disadvantage, is what troubles me." The V.A. Chorn's voice, a complex tapestry of sonic frequencies, conveyed an ancient wisdom, a weariness born of countless cycles of galactic governance. It had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the sudden blossoming and swift extinction of species, and there was something in humanity that defied its vast repository of historical precedent. A low thrum resonated from the far side of the chamber, where the silent, massive forms of the GR Rule delegation remained motionless, their multi-limbed bodies integrated directly into their sensory consoles. The GR Rule were data architects, their minds vast computational matrices, and their silence was often more profound. than any spoken pronouncement. Finally, a single deep, resonant tone emanated from their position, a frequency that vibrated through the very bones of the assembled counselors. Irregularity, statistical anomaly, predictive models divergent. The GR rule did not speak in words, but in synthesized conceptualizations, and their pronouncement was grave. Their models, vast and complex, designed to predict the trajectory of civilizations, were failing when applied to humanity. Counselor Cathar slammed his claw down again, frustration evident. See, even the GR rule sense the aberration. They are a species of contradictions. They possess no innate psionic capabilities. Their physical forms are remarkably fragile compared to many hegemony species, yet their technological advancement has been exponential. Their internal conflicts, their historical record of self-destruction, should by all logical extrapolation have crippled them before they ever reached interstellar flight. Yet here they are, calm and composed, accepting our gesture. I reiterate, the Starseer's whisper is a deliberately chosen impediment, a test. What do they intend to do with it? It is barely capable of maintaining FTL in a stable manifold. Its energy core is inefficient, its weaponry laughably archaic. It is an observer craft, not a vessel of exploration or defense. His accusation hung in the air, weighted with the unspoken fear of the unknown. Ambassador Lyra sighed, a soft, almost inaudible sound. Perhaps they intend to learn, to observe, to integrate. We have presented them with a challenge, yes, but also an opportunity. To provide them with a truly advanced vessel might have overwhelmed their nascent understanding. The whisper allows them to grasp the fundamentals of hegemony technology without immediate access to our most potent capabilities. It is a slow assimilation, a gentle hand extended. She paused, her tendrils dimming slightly. Though, I confess, their immediate response to its delivery was unexpected. They did not disassemble it for study, as many new species might. They immediately began to modify it. Our surveillance drones reported unusual energy signatures emanating from their dry docks, not indicative of standard repair or maintenance, but of structural and systems alterations beyond the vessel's original design parameters. And their communications, when they resumed, were merely requests for schematics of hegemony, standard connectors, and power conduits. No questions about why the whisper was equipped as it was, no complaints, only practical inquiries. The grand VH horn shifted its immense form, its silence momentarily deepening the tension. Practical inquiries, ambassador, from a species that we have, by design, underestimated. Their acceptance of the Starseer's whisper was not born of ignorance, I now believe, but of a profound and startling understanding of opportunity. We offered them the weakest vessel, expecting them to demonstrate their perceived lack of capability, to perhaps even flounder. Instead, they have taken our offering, our deliberate handicap, and they are doing something else. We have monitored their internal communications with increasing difficulty. Their language is complex, their conceptualizations sometimes defy direct translation, but the underlying sentiment detected in their exchanges regarding the whisper is not one of disappointment, but of potential. They speak of rewriting, of reimagining. A species barely capable of traversing the void, yet they speak of reshaping reality through the manipulation of a decrepit vessel. The grand VH horn's voice took on a sharper edge, a rare display of something akin to apprehension. This is not merely about a starship, counselors. This is about their fundamental approach to problem-solving, their perception of limitations. We intended to test their humility. Instead, I fear, we have inadvertently challenged their ingenuity. The image of Sol 3 pulsed, a silent sentinel of an unfolding enigma. The hegemony, vast and ancient, suddenly felt vulnerable. The unknown, once a predictable parameter in their galactic calculus, had taken on the disconcerting shape of a fragile, bipedal species from a remote arm of the galaxy. The Starseer's whisper, once a symbol of their patronizing generosity, now seemed to shimmer with an ominous, unpredictable energy, reflecting the very essence of humanity back at them. The tension in the chamber solidified, becoming palpable, a heavy weight pressing down upon every counselor, every delegate, as they waited for the next communication, the next observation, the next unsettling revelation from the species that had been given the weakest ship in the fleet, and had somehow begun to rewrite the very definition of weakness. The modifications continued for what, to the hegemony, seemed an inordinately long period, stretching beyond the typical assimilation protocols for a new species. Weeks bled into months, the initial curiosity of the monitoring stations turning into a sustained, almost obsessive watch. The Starseer's whisper, once a familiar silhouette in the surveillance feeds, began to distort, its lines blurring, then sharpening into new, unrecognizable contours. The energy signatures emanating from the human drydocs escalated, not in destructive bursts, but in carefully modulated, continuous fluxes that spoke of intricate, deep-seated alterations. The GR rule computational matrices, now almost entirely devoted to analyzing the human project, pulsed with ever more divergent predictions. Their conceptualizations, once focused on simple trajectories, now hinted at quantum entanglement fields, space-time manipulation, and energy harvesting techniques previously considered theoretical or prohibitively inefficient. Counselor Cathar grew increasingly agitated, his demands for immediate intervention escalating with each passing cycle. This is not assimilation, first speaker. This is appropriation. They are stripping hegemony technology, reverse engineering our designs, and incorporating them into their own chaotic methodologies. We offered them a gesture of trust, and they are exploiting it. This is a violation of established protocols, a clear act of defiance. He pounded his console, the sound echoing hollowly. His fear, once carefully veiled, was now raw and evident, a visceral reaction to the loss of control, the unpredictable deviation from established norms. Ambassador Lyra, though still advocating for caution, found her arguments increasingly strained. Counselor, their communications, though sparse, continue to be couched in terms of innovation and efficiency. They have not requested further vessels, nor have they demanded additional schematics beyond the initial rudimentary requests. Their actions, while aggressive in their scope, are not overtly hostile. They are merely adapting. Perhaps their inherent ingenuity, their capacity for lateral thought, simply exceeds our established parameters for technological development. She traced a shimmering pattern on her console, her tendrils flickering with uncertainty. The Zalosians prided themselves on their ability to predict and guide emergent civilizations, to gently steer them towards hegemony integration. Humanity was proving utterly unsteerable. The Grand VH horn, its attention now almost exclusively focused on the evolving image of the Whisper, remained impassive, its multifaceted eyes reflecting a deepening contemplation. They are not merely adapting, Ambassador. They are reimagining. The initial reports from our covert probes indicate that they have not simply replaced inefficient systems with more advanced hegemony equivalents. They have taken the fundamental principles of the Whisper's archaic design and twisted them, reconfigured them, often in ways that defy our understanding of energy mechanics and structural integrity. For instance, the Whisper's hyperdrive, a sluggish and unstable relic, has not been upgraded with a hegemony standard FTL engine. Instead, they appear to have modified its very manifold generator, utilizing principles of quantum entanglement to stabilize spacetime distortions, resulting in what our GR rule analysts now call a localized pocket dimension drive. A concept so far beyond our current capabilities that it was previously only theoretical, something requiring energy expenditure beyond anything available in this sector. A shocked silence descended upon the chamber. Counselor Cathar's jaw hung slightly ajar, his usual bluster momentarily forgotten. Ambassador Lyra's tendrils dimmed almost entirely, a visible sign of profound distress. Localized pocket dimension drive. The words were almost incomprehensible. Such a technology would negate the need for vast energy reserves, rendering existing FTL methods inefficient by comparison. It would allow for instantaneous travel across vast interstellar distances, bypassing the very fabric of spacetime in a manner that was both elegant and terrifying. But how, Counselor Cathar finally managed, his voice a strained whisper, how could they achieve such a feat with such limited resources, with a vessel designed to fail? The Grand VH horn's gaze shifted to the Catarl counselor, its myriad eyes holding a glint of ancient understanding. Because, counselor, we gave them limitations, and humans, it appears, perceive limitations not as barriers, but as invitations to innovation. We provided them with a vessel that required immense energy to operate inefficiently, and they devised a method to circumvent the energy requirement itself. We gave them a structure prone to instability, and they engineered a way to make instability a feature, not a bug in their propulsion. Their approach is not one of improvement, but of fundamental paradigm shift. Just as the implications of this revelation began to settle, a new alert flashed across the central console, a deep, red warning signal that cut through the chamber's ambient hum like a razor. A surge of unexpected, impossibly coherent energy signatures had erupted from the human system. Not weapons fire, not a defensive posture, but something far more deliberate. The projection of Sol 3 flickered, then resolved into a new image. The Starseer's whisper, no longer recognizable as its former self. Its once clunky frame had been refined, streamlined, not with the sleek aesthetics of hegemony design, but with an organic, almost crystalline geometry that pulsed with an internal, cool blue light. It floated above Sol 3, a silent, improbable sentinel. And then, without fanfare, without a dramatic energy buildup, it simply vanished. Not a jump, not a warp, but an instantaneous disappearance, leaving behind only the lingering resonance of that impossible energy signature. The GR rule unison tone resonated, even deeper and more urgent than before. Displacement, instantaneous, across previously unmeasurable distances, target designation within the deepest reaches of the Andromeda spiral. Impossible, theoretical maximums exceeded. Andromeda spiral, a galaxy so distant, so far beyond the hegemony's reach that it was merely a mythical concept, a distant island of stars. The Starseer's whisper, the weakest ship in the fleet, had not merely jumped across their local cluster. It had crossed intergalactic voids in an instant. They did not merely modify it, Ambassador Lyra breathed, her voice filled with a stunned awe. They transcended it. They have rewritten the very laws of physics as we understand them, using our own outdated technology as a crucible. Her tendrils flared, bright with a newfound understanding, a dawning realization of the true scope of humanity's unconventional genius. Counselor Cathar, however, had turned ashen. His fear had morphed into something colder, more primal. This is not ingenuity, first speaker. This is a threat, a weapon, a species that can bend reality to its will with the most basic of instruments. What happens when they possess true power? They could rewrite the hegemony itself. We must act. We must confront them. Immediately. His voice rose to a panicked shriek, his composure completely shattered. The Grand VH horn remained still, its multifaceted eyes now fixed on the empty space where the whisper had been. Confront them with what, Counselor? Our fleet's designed for predictable warfare against a species that defies predictability. Our weapons, which operate within the constraints of known physics, against a species that appears to be rewriting those very constraints. A profound silence followed, heavy with the weight of that question. Then from the void where the whisper had vanished, a single clear communication burst forth, crisp and untranslated, yet somehow perfectly intelligible in its intent. It was a request delivered with a calm, almost serene confidence. A request for hegemony stellar charts of the Andromeda spiral, not as a demand, but as a formal inquiry regarding unexplored territories and potential resources for shared exploration. They hadn't gone to conquer. They had gone to explore. And they were extending an invitation. The Grand VH horn finally spoke, its voice carrying an unprecedented note of solemnity. We gave humanity the weakest ship, a symbol of our doubt, a test of their humility, and they have transformed it into a vessel capable of rewriting reality. They have shown us not what we could do, but what we should have done all along. They have not merely joined the hegemony, counselors. They have fundamentally altered our perception of what is possible. And now they offer us a shared path to the stars beyond our wildest imaginings. The question is no longer what they intend. The question is, what do we do now in the face of such magnificent defiance of the impossible? The nebula above them shimmered, its starlight suddenly seeming a little brighter, a little more infinite as the universe itself seemed to expand, redefined by the audacity of a single, fragile species. The weeks that followed the whisper's improbable leap to the Andromeda spiral were characterized by an internal hegemony tumult, unlike any in recent memory. The revelation had fractured the Council's consensus, dividing the ancient alliance into factions oscillating between profound awe, strategic paranoia, and genuine, existential bewilderment. The GR rule had fallen into an unprecedented period of collective deep processing, their vast minds struggling to reconcile the new data with their foundational theorems. Counselor Cathar spearheaded a campaign of fear-mongering, predicting humanity's inevitable ascension to galactic dominance, asserting that their shared exploration was merely a Trojan horse for an insidious infiltration. Ambassador Lyra, however, championed a policy of engagement, arguing that humanity's peaceful overtures and their continued sharing of mighted yet groundbreaking data from the Andromeda journey spoke of an ethical framework previously unrecognized. The Grand VH horn, meanwhile, had initiated an unprecedented direct dialogue with the human species, bypassing the traditional diplomatic channels. This was not a negotiation, but a philosophical exchange, a careful probing of humanity's core motivations and their seemingly boundless capacity for innovation. The responses from humanity, channeled through the whisper itself, now redesignated by them as the Voyager's Gambit, were startling in their clarity and ethical consistency. They spoke of curiosity as their primary driver, of an innate human need to understand, to push boundaries not for conquest, but for enlightenment. They presented their modifications to the Whisper not as a display of power, but as a natural extension of their problem-solving methodology. Faced with a limiting factor, they sought to redefine the problem itself, rather than merely optimize within its existing constraints. One such exchange, meticulously logged and analyzed by hegemony linguists and philosophers, became a cornerstone of understanding. The Grand VH had asked, "Humans, your capabilities appear to transcend known physics. Why did you not announce this prior to the integration ceremony? Why did you accept a vessel that was, by our design, a deliberate handicap?" The human response was calm, devoid of any discernible emotion of triumph or resentment. Grand VH to declare a capability is one thing, to demonstrate it another. We accepted the Starseer's Whisper as an opportunity, not a handicap. It presented a tangible problem, a set of defined limitations, and within those limitations, the potential for novel solutions. To refuse it, or to boast of our theoretical capacities, would have been unproductive. We wished to learn the hegemony's methods of interaction, its protocols, its underlying philosophies, and in doing so, we found a practical application for our own understanding of emergent physics. The vessel was a tool provided by you. We merely sought to optimize its utility, not just for ourselves, but for the potential of shared knowledge. This particular exchange resonated deeply with Ambassador Lyra, who presented it to the Council with renewed conviction. They view challenges as opportunities for collective growth, not as tests of dominance. They are not secretive for malice, but for practicality. They allowed their actions to speak louder than any boastful pronouncements. This is not a threat. It is an invitation to a new paradigm of existence. Counselor Cathar scoffed. And what of their continued independent exploration of Andromeda? Why do they not offer us their technology freely if their intentions are truly benevolent? They withhold the very means by which they achieved this impossible feat, and instead offer us shared knowledge of distant star charts. His suspicion remained unyielding, a deep-seated fear of relinquishing control. The Grand VH, its attention still partially absorbed by the data streams from the Voyager's Gambit, finally addressed Cathar directly. "Counselor, their methods of propulsion and energy generation are not merely advanced technology. They are a fundamental reconceptualization of universal laws. Transfer such knowledge without a corresponding shift in our own foundational understanding of physics would be akin to providing a sapient being of limited understanding with a weapon of unimaginable power. They are not withholding, they are preparing us. Their exploration of Andromeda concurrently with their shared data is a demonstration. It is a living laboratory, a proof of concept for the possibilities they envision. They are showing us, through action, the path forward rather than simply dictating it." As if to underscore the Grand VH words, a new, unprecedented data burst arrived from the Voyager's Gambit. It was not stellar cartography, nor atmospheric readings. It was a complex, multi-layered projection, a holographic representation of something vast, ancient, and utterly artificial. It depicted a colossal structure, hundreds of light-years in diameter, coiling through the empty intergalactic void, a construct of impossibly dense, unknown materials, seemingly abandoned for untold eons. Its intricate network of filaments and nodes hummed with a faint, residual energy, hinting at a purpose far beyond the comprehension of any known hegemony science. GR Rule, after a moment of stunned processing, emitted a series of rapid, fragmented tones. "Extinction-level artifact, pre-galactic, unknown origin, structure defies known matter composition, function unknown, potential infinite." Their conceptualizations were riddled with question marks, with gaps in understanding that shocked even the Grand VH. This was a structure so ancient, so vast, that it dwarfed even the hegemony's most audacious megaprojects. It was a monument. Vanished civilization of unimaginable power, located in a galaxy only now accessible due to humanity's weakest ship. The Grand VH projected the image for the entire council. The structure dominated the chamber's central space, an ethereal, silent titan. "This, counselors," the VH declared, its voice resonating with a newfound solemnity, "is what humanity has found. Not a new territory for exploitation, not a new species for subjugation, but an enigma that dwarfs all previous galactic understanding. This is what lies beyond the veil of our known universe, now revealed to us by the species we offered our refuse. The Voyager's gambit has not only traversed the void, it has uncovered a truth about the cosmos that challenges our very understanding of existence. Ambassador Lyra stared at the impossible structure, her tendrils glowing with a mixture of fear and wonder. They have not merely rewritten reality, they have expanded it. They have opened a door to the truly ancient, to the cosmic questions that our hegemony in its long history has never dared to even conceive, and they are offering us access. Not just to the coordinates, but to their initial, cautious findings, their attempts to interpret the residual energy signatures, the cryptic, repeating fractal patterns etched into its impossible surface. Counselor Cathar, for the first time, was utterly silent, his multi-jointed body rigid, his gaze fixed on the gargantuan structure. The fear in his eyes had not vanished, but it was now overshadowed by something else, a primal, deeply unsettling sense of insignificance, of being truly small in a universe far grander and stranger than he had ever imagined. The humans had not merely demonstrated a new technology, they had fundamentally altered the hegemony's perception of its place in the cosmos. A new communication arrived from the Voyager's gambit, this time accompanied by a brief, simple visual, a human standing before a viewport gazing out at the incomprehensible structure. The image was grainy yet compelling. The human's face was unreadable, not expressing awe or fear, but a quiet, intense focus. And then a message, translated this time with unusual clarity. This structure, Grand VH-horn, is quiescent. It is silent, but its echoes are profound. It represents a history far older than any of us. We believe it to be a repository, perhaps a warning. We request the hegemony's most advanced linguistic and archaeological specialists. This is not a task for a single species. This is a discovery that requires the collective wisdom of all. The Grand VH-horn turned its myriad eyes to the Council, its voice ringing with a profound, almost spiritual conviction. We offered them the weakest ship in the fleet, and they have used it to rewrite reality itself, not for power, but for profound, shared discovery. They have shown us that true strength lies not in the might of our fleets, but in the boundless audacity of the mind, the unwavering pursuit of knowledge, and the courage to confront the unknown not with fear, but with an open hand. This is not the end of our hegemony, counselors. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one written not in conquest, but in unity, and in the shared wonder of a universe far vaster than we ever dared to imagine. We have underestimated humanity not because of their weakness, but because we failed to understand their true strength, their capacity to defy perceived limitations, and in doing so to elevate us all. The nebula above them, once a comforting symbol of hegemony power, now shimmered with an even greater brilliance, reflecting the light of countless new possibilities, new frontiers, new cosmic truths. The universe, through the lens of humanity's impossible voyage, had suddenly become an infinitely larger, more enigmatic, and profoundly more hopeful place. The Voyager's gambit, once a symbol of neglect, had become a beacon, charting a course for an unimaginable future, one where the combined wisdom of diverse species might finally unravel the deepest mysteries of creation. The tension in the chamber had not dissipated, but transformed into a solemn resolve, a collective understanding that their journey, their very reality, had just been irrevocably and magnificently rewritten. The implications of the cosmic library, as the humans had tentatively dubbed the colossal Andromeda structure, rippled through the hegemony with an almost theological fervor. The ancient, multi-species alliance, once defined by its carefully cultivated borders and meticulously managed internal politics, now faced an external mystery so profound that it rendered many of their previous concerns trivial. The GR rule, having emerged from their deep processing, confirmed the unprecedented nature of the structure, identifying its constituent materials as stable exotic matter, theorized but never before observed. Their models, now recalibrated by human insights, suggested that the structure predated the formation of most galactic clusters, placing its origin in an epoch before the stars themselves had fully coalesced. Counselor Cathar, his earlier belligerence replaced by a profound, almost reverent caution, became one of the most vocal proponents of a hegemony-wide mobilization of resources towards the cosmic library. His fear of humanity had transformed into a grudging respect, tinged with a deep-seated awe for their capacity to break through perceived limits. The humans, he addressed the council, his voice subdued, have not merely shown us a new technology, they have shown us a new frontier, this structure. It represents a knowledge, a power that dwarfs anything we have ever conceived. To ignore it, to fail to explore it with every available resource, would be an act of galactic negligence. The Katarl, once isolationists, now found themselves at the forefront of a shared scientific endeavor, spurred by the existential weight of the discovery. Ambassador Lyra, her Xylosian tendrils now glowing with a steady, hopeful light, worked tirelessly to bridge the cultural and intellectual gaps between the hegemony's specialists and the human contingent on the Voyager's gambit. The humans, for their part, continue to share their findings with an unwavering commitment to transparency, providing detailed analyses of the cosmic library's subtle energy fluctuations, the complex, almost organic logic gates embedded within its structure, and the recurring, intricate symbols etched into its surface, a language beyond any known to the hegemony. Their calm, analytical approach to something so utterly vast and ancient stood in stark contrast to the initial, often emotional, reactions of the hegemony's own scientists. Their minds, Ambassador Lyra reported to the Grand VH after one particularly intense holographic conference with the human scientists, function on a different plane. Where we see an insurmountable barrier, they see a series of solvable problems. Where we perceive the infinite, they seek patterns, equations, fundamental principles. They are not merely observing the cosmic library. They are attempting to converse with it, to decipher its intended purpose, to understand the civilization that created it. The Voyager's gambit, no longer merely a modified scout ship, had become a mobile research station, hovering respectfully near the colossal structure, its transformed systems humming with new, experimental sensors developed by human ingenuity. The humans had not simply borrowed hegemony technology. They had used it as a springboard, creating entirely new sensor arrays capable of discerning subquantum fluctuations and interpreting chronogravitic distortions, allowing them to map the cosmic library's internal architecture without physical penetration. One day, a new communication arrived, marked with an unprecedented level of urgency, yet still delivered with the characteristic human calm. The image showed a lead human researcher, her face tired but resolute, standing before a newly activated section of the cosmic library. The vast, dormant structure had, in response to human probing, begun to faintly glow. Grand VH, the human addressed the first speaker, her voice clear and measured. We have achieved a breakthrough in linguistic analysis. The recurring fractal patterns on the cosmic library are not merely decorative. They are a form of hyperdimensional language, a mathematical representation of information that transcends conventional linguistic structures. We believe we have deciphered a core interpretive algorithm, and with it, we have activated a central data node. The chamber held its breath. The projection shifted, showcasing a newly illuminated section of the cosmic library. It was not a physical opening, but a field of shimmering energy, a portal of light that pulsed with an array of colors previously unknown to hegemony optical sensors. Within this field, intricate holographic projections began to form, swirling into complex patterns, evolving geometric shapes, and what appeared to be vast, conceptual landscapes. "What is it, humans?" the Grand VH finally asked, its voice filled with an ancient apprehension and a profound hope. The human on the Voyager's gambit paused, her gaze fixed on the shimmering portal. "It is a record, a history, but not of a single species or even a single galaxy. It is a record of the cosmos itself, from its earliest moments to potential futures. It is a chronicle of the universe, of civilizations far older than anything we have ever encountered, of cosmic events that shape the very fabric of reality. But more than that, Grand VH, it is a message. A message left by the architects of this library, intended for any species capable of understanding its context." The GR rule, after a moment of intense processing, emitted a unified, almost euphoric resonance. "Knowledge beyond measure, universal consciousness, architects, Bay. NGS of pure information, purpose, guidance, preservation." Counselor Cathar leaned forward, his multi-jointed form trembling slightly. "A message, what does it say?" The human researcher turned back to face the camera, her calm demeanor unwavering, yet her eyes held a profound, almost melancholic depth. "The message, Grand VH, is both a warning and an imperative. The civilization that built this library, they call themselves the Cosmic Weavers. They traverse the universe for eons, observing, cataloging, and nurturing emergent life. They foresaw a cyclical threat, an event of cosmic scale that would periodically scour entire galaxies of complex life. They built this library not just as a record, but as a safeguard, a seed of knowledge designed to endure these cycles, to provide future civilizations with the tools and understanding necessary to survive. to break the cycle. A palpable dread settled over the Hegemony Council, a cyclical cosmic threat, something that could wipe out galaxies. All their internal squabbles, their strategic concerns, their ancient fears, suddenly seemed utterly insignificant. "What is this threat?" Ambassador Lyra whispered, her tendrils dimmed with horror. The human's gaze was distant, as if seeing beyond the confines of the chamber, into the vast, indifferent cosmos. "They call it the Great Unraveling, a fundamental instability in the very fabric of spacetime, manifesting as rogue exotic matter storms, interdimensional incursions, and systemic entropic collapse on a galactic scale. It is not an enemy to be fought with fleets, Grand VH-Horn. It is a fundamental force of the universe, a decay that, left unchecked, will eventually consume all." Another shocked silence. The cosmic weavers, beings of unimaginable power and knowledge, had constructed a library to warn the future, to empower those who would come after. And it was humanity, given the weakest ship, that had found it, deciphered its language, and understood its dire message. "The imperative, Grand VH-Horn," the human continued, her voice gaining a renewed strength, "is that the Great Unraveling is approaching its next cycle. The cosmic weavers left us the knowledge, the science within this library to stabilize the local spacetime, to shield our galaxies, to build a network of reality anchors that can withstand the unraveling. It requires the combined efforts of every advanced civilization. It requires unity. It requires a willingness to transcend our differences and focus on the survival of all." The Grand VH-Horn's multifaceted eyes slowly scanned the council, its ancient mind grappling with the enormity of the revelation. "They gave us the weakest ship, and we tested their mettle. They rewrote reality not for dominance but for discovery. And in their discovery they have unveiled a threat that dwarfs our understanding and simultaneously offered us the means to overcome it. Humanity, it seems, was not merely an anomaly, but a catalyst. A spark in the darkness, destined to awaken us to a greater truth, a greater purpose." Counselor Cathar, finally finding his voice, spoke with an uncharacteristic humility. "Grand VH-Horn, we have been blind. We measured strength by weapons and fleets. They measured it by intellect and will. They did not just rewrite reality, first speaker. They offered us a chance to rewrite our destiny. We must forge this alliance not as a matter of choice, but as a matter of galactic survival. The Cathar pledged their full support, their every resource to this unified effort. Let us learn from humanity, not just their science, but their spirit." Ambassador Lyra, her entire form now radiating with a profound sense of shared purpose, bowed her head in solemn agreement. "The Zalosians will dedicate their diplomatic and scientific expertise to this grand endeavor. Humanity has shown us that the truest power lies in cooperation, in the shared pursuit of knowledge, in facing the impossible with courage and ingenuity. The weaknesses we perceived in them were merely reflections of our own limited understanding. They are not merely a new species, they are the architects of our collective future." The Grand VH-Horn looked at the holographic image of the human, calm and resolute before the shimmering portal of universal knowledge. "Humanity," the VH-Horn declared, its voice resonating through the chamber with an ancient power. "You have not merely joined the hegemony, you have transformed it. You have revealed to us a universe both terrifying and magnificent, a future both perilous and brimming with possibility. We stand with you. Let us now together rewrite the fate of the cosmos." The image of the cosmic library pulsed, its ancient knowledge now accessible, its imperative clear. The Voyager's Gambit, the weakest ship in the fleet, had not only rewritten reality for a single species, but had unveiled a truth that bound all life in the universe, an ancient twist that transcended the petty squabbles of empires, forcing them to look beyond their own fears and embrace a unity forged in the face of true cosmic awe. The stars, once distant points of light, now seemed to draw closer, beckoning them towards a shared future, an unimaginable journey of survival and discovery, guided by the audacious spirit of a species that refused to recognize the meaning of impossible. The vastness of the universe, once a cold and indifferent void, now held the promise of a collective endeavor, a grand symphony of species united in the face of the great unraveling, all thanks to the quiet strength and limitless ingenuity of humanity.